Welcome to Burbs to the Tetons. This is our story about moving from the city out to Teton, Idaho. So one of the first things you've got to decide when you're starting to get to that retirement age is, where do we want to retire? And there's a couple options. One, a lot of people retire in place. You know, when you're 35, 40, you buy your dream house or build your dream house, and often people are like, no, this is where I want to stay. I've got my dream house. Others, you know, live in a city, just buy something because it's convenient, it's in the right school district, that kind of stuff. And then once the kids are out of the house, then they start thinking about, well, where do I want to retire? Another option that's very popular is that you like the city that you're in. Instead of building your dream house, you kind of built your vacation home that's not too far away so that you can use it all the time. So it might be something nearby. Like us, we didn't have anything nearby. We were kind of like, hey, we got a clean slate. Where do we want to go? We don't want to stay in the city anymore. And we picked Teton, Idaho, and we'll talk about how we made that decision in another video. But today, I just want to talk about, you know, the general process of how you do that. And some people want to retire internationally, right? You want to go down to South America, live on the beach, kind of thing. Go to Europe, enjoy the culture there and the skiing in the Alps. So there's all those different things, and I think that's probably the first thing you've got to think about is, out of those 3 or 4 options, which ones do I want to pick first? And then what you have to do is, then once you've decided that, as well as there's you know, where do you want to retire as far as what type of a place? Do you want to do a retirement community, a golf community, a beachfront community, you know, big city, suburbs, country, rural living? My wife and I, we decided we wanted to do country rural living. So that played a major factor into deciding where we wanted to retire. So one of the things that you've got to do when you're thinking about all of this is then analyze what makes sense for your life. And so there's a whole bunch of things that you're going to see once you start doing your research. Cost of living, taxes, healthcare quality, what's the weather like? You know, do you hate snow? You don't want to be living in, you know, North America, Canada, up there where we're going to be living. Idaho, it snows 4 or 5 months out of the year. Crime, cultural things that are available. I mean, if you love going to plays and concerts and things like that, you want to make sure that there's something nearby for doing that kind of stuff. Your well-being. Are you just kind of like burn out from the rat race and you need to get away? I've run into a lot of people who have done that. You know, it's like, I'm, you know, going to stop my regular job and go off and live rurally and not live in a huge house that I might have now, and live a little bit simpler, but really enjoy it a lot more. Things to do. What are you going to do when you get there? If the only thing that's there is golf and the beach, is that going to be enough for you? Common services that are available if you're going to do rural. Shopping, local government services. So, I mean, those are all things that I would take into account when you're doing your research. Now, when you go online, you're going to find a lot of resources of reports telling you, hey, this is the best city. Well, I don't want to retire in a city, so that report really doesn't really help me very much. There's one on states that talk about a lot of things. But the thing you've got to look at the most is how they've weighted each one of these. What's the most important to you? Often cost of living and taxes make up 50% of it. And to me, you know, living in the cheapest place in the country isn't the most important thing to me. I feel like once we all get older, we retire, all the reports say those who sit around and watch the paint dry on their walls lose their cognitive functions much faster, they get depressed, and they just don't live as long. the number one thing on our list was, where do we go where we have lots of fun things to do? And one of the biggest things my wife and I like to do is go off and look at nature and be outside. We're getting older and we're both a little overweight, so hiking is more difficult for us, but we do like to hike. But we love, and my wife laughs at me all the time when I say this, we loved looking at critters, finding animals. You know, I'm an amateur photographer, and I just love doing that. It's one of my favorite things to do. So national parks, where animals live and play and breathe and are protected, is a big deal to us. And that's one of the reasons we picked Idaho. It's probably the number one reason we picked Idaho. Right next door to us, within driving distance, with less than 2 hours, we can be in Yellowstone. In less than 45 minutes, I can be in Teton National Park. And then there's just park after park after park around there. You look at Utah that's south of us, things that are north of us, the Canadian Rockies and Banff, Glacier National Park. Oregon is just to the left of us. Tons of things to do there. Northern California isn't that far away. It's just, there's a lot of outdoorsy kind of things for us to do there. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, we picked Idaho. But that's because it was right for us. So make sure when you go through these reports, see if they've talked about how they did their weighting. Because often they'll go, okay, this, you know, got 20 points out of 100. And this got 20 points, but this only got 5% of the weighting. So it's important to do that to see if that weighting matches what is important to you. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And, you know, if you want to follow our journey on moving out to Idaho and building our place and all the cool things to do out west, please go ahead and subscribe and click the bell if you want to be notified when we go ahead and upload a new video. And thanks for joining us.